Hi everyone. Hope you're doing well. I wanted to share good news. I was able to get the Japan artist visa. I'm doing a video because in my process of getting the visa, I had heard a lot of people having a lot of difficulty getting it, not actually realizing that it is an actual visa. So I wanted to make a video to say, A, it does exist, and be my journey into getting it and what I learned, my takeaways from getting this visa. Just to reiterate, I am an illustrator, cartoonist, graphic designer. I have a career that started over 20 years ago, and I wanted to move to Japan. So, so bam, go. You might ask what the benefits are for getting this visa. It allows you to work in Japan. There is a certain amount of flexibility with it, but that's also a double-edged sword, which I'll get into later. But there is that flexibility, which in my case suited me, and it allows me to keep my current clients, which are, I have some clients in the US, and I can keep them under this visa, so that's all great. So the first thing that I did was that I contacted a lawyer, because there are some Japanese visas that you can just, like, you don't need a lawyer. Like, you're going to work under a company, for example, or you're going to be a student, you don't necessarily need a lawyer for that, I think. This was not very cut and dry, so I would highly recommend getting a lawyer if you wanted to get this kind of visa. So I started working with this lawyer almost a year ago, honestly. There were some things that I heard that about this visa that are true and not true. The truthful things that I actually found to be true are that very, very few people are granted this visa. I don't know the exact statistics. I don't think Japan actually gives those statistics out, but I know it's not an easy one. And I mean, any sort of visa other than a visitor visa is difficult to get, but this one's like particularly difficult to get. It is true that you are self-sponsoring, they call it, as in you don't need to necessarily have a company saying, hey, I'm going to sponsor you. I'm going to fill out the paperwork and send it to immigration. You don't need that. However, this is kind of the nebulous part. You still probably need some kind of Japanese organization, entity, artist, companies who want to work with you and want to collaborate with you. Their contribution to the visa could literally just be like a working contract, like a contract that says, okay, you're going to work these many days a week for this much pay. I initially went to Japan, Kyoto specifically, in July 2024. And I went there initially on an artist residency for a month. And while I was there, I decided I'm going to stay longer. I'm going to start building connections because I do want to try to live here. I actually found a place to rent, and I started building connections, getting to know people, making friends, specifically finding people and entities that were in my wheelhouse. So not just artists, but I have a lot of pro-Palestinian work. I'm very much an activist in that regard. So finding those particular people helped a lot. And also being truthful and explaining my situation and my intentions of what I want to do, and just really just getting to know people, like, that really helped me a lot. The fact that I was in Japan for 6 months, that also helped just to get to know people. But anyway, I digress. My Japanese is not very strong. I do know a little bit. If you go from the N1 to N5 scale, where N5 is weakest and N1 is fluent, I am an N5. I can be conversational, but I cannot, that's about the most I can do. I can be conversational. The thing about this visa is that they don't really look at your fluency in Japanese, though obviously if you have that fluency, it's going to help you get to know people in Japan a little bit better, and people will want to work with you better if you can communicate with them easily. So it's still good, no matter what, to work toward Japanese fluency if you want to do this. The U.S. passport, you can go to Japan for 6 months out of the year total. Like 3 months, and you have to leave and come back, and then another 3 months, and then you have to not be back for 6 months after that. I stayed the maximum amount that I could. I opened a gallery in my house, and that was under the suggestion of my lawyer to try to, garner interest and stuff. So I did do that, which was a lot of fun, and honestly, I don't regret it. I want to go back and reopen it. So my initial application went in mid-December 2024. Fast forward to early March 2025, and the government responded, and they did not outright reject me. They said, okay, your past history is perfect, like no problems there. You have a lot of experience, and it's cool what you're doing so far, but we want to see you work with more entities. Okay, which ones? How much pay? If there's pay, can I volunteer? Like, what if it's like one day a week or a couple of days a month? Like, what do you want? Like I was saying, the flexibility of this visa is a virtue, and it's also kind of a drawback. Trying to get an idea of what the government wants was difficult. There's this openness to it that is kind of scary. At that point, I did have to leave, and so I have been bouncing between Taiwan and South Korea while I, wait out the visa stuff. The thing that ultimately got me this visa is that I am going to be in a group show in Kyoto. And this is someone who is in these similar circles that I've been working with. Initially, it is a 3-month visa. That is not very unusual. What Japan tends to do is that they try to put you in for the smallest amount of time possible, and then you have to renew. In my case, it would be continuing to build connections, continuing to have artistic gigs and working with people and that sort of thing. The good news is that I definitely built groundwork to do this, and I actually do have other things lined up for when the 3 months are up to give the government. Again, December 2024 is when it was filed. It is now late May 2025, and I finally got the visa. So, very long time. I had to be very patient. Other more cut and dried visas are not this long. They're like a couple of months. Mine is special. All of that said, they lean conservatively. I'm not the only one who said that. That's kind of like a known thing. And what I mean in this case is that when they see artists, they're looking for, recognition, awards, scholarly journals, gallery showings, like very, very like old school kind of street cred, I'll say. That was really what propelled me into getting the visa, is focusing on galleries and focusing on being seen in a more traditional way in the arts industry there. Do not be afraid to toot your horn or to make a stink in the bathroom. My CV that I gave them has every single thing I've ever done artistically, including the first zine I ever made when I was like 19. It actually was really nice to see everything in one place, and I'm like, wow, like I did a lot. I'm old. I have an online portfolio where I gave them the link, and it just is very concise, and it's in English and Japanese, and includes my CV on that site, which honestly has been helpful for me, not just for this, but also just connecting with people in Japan. Just like, here's my website, my entire CV's up in there, go check it out. Also of note, a lot of the Japanese visas tend to assume that you are a young person. The language teaching avenue, I told myself that if I had to, I would do it, because at the end of the day, I want to move to Japan. The drawbacks to that are that, A, they assume you're fresh out of college and you're a young, sprightly, hyper thing, which I'm not. And B, the pay is not good for the amount of work that you do. I already have an established career in what I do, and I'm not that I'm making an insane amount of money, but I'm used to making that amount of money. If I had to, I would have done it, but this allows me to keep doing the work that I've been doing. Yeah, are there any other questions? Let me think for a second. So also keep in mind, this information that I'm giving applies to me. Prepare to hustle, which if you're a freelancer like I am, you're already kind of used to it. So that wasn't necessarily different It just was more protracted because I was on a deadline. Okay, I got 6 months here, and go. Anyway, hope that's helpful. Thank you. Bye.